That's what about the snapshots. What do you mean by snapshots? It is actually creating the droplet again by first. You have to take the image of the droplet. You can store the image. That is what I mean by snapshot. Yeah. It costs around 0.05 GB, $0.05 per GB per month. Then you can actually create back the droplet from the snapshot. That's what the first interesting topic I have told about. The next interesting topic about is spaces. Mm, Spaces is actually, before knowing spaces, you have to know about the two storages that are available. There are two storages actually, block storage and object storage. Uh, as you are knowing, as you are learning DigitalOcean, many of you might know Amazon AWS S3. S3 is what I mean by simple storage service, which Amazon offers for storing the data on their servers. So, how does that relate here? DigitalOcean is actually DigitalOcean is actually with the same infrastructure of DigitalOcean. It is actually using the S3 API into it. What does I mean by is that it uses the AWS S3 API to store the data in the block storage in DigitalOcean. So that is what I mean by using AWS S3 API. So you have two types of storages actually, block storage and object storage. Block storage is essentially meaning the same file system in your local PC, right? You have set a number of folders again inside that folders again you have some folders. They are following some architecture, right? Like you are having some parent directory, you are having some child directory. They're following some architecture which you can easily trace upon. Then coming on to the object storage, it doesn't form any file system, it doesn't form any file hierarchy, it doesn't form any FTP kind of thing. So object storage is object storage is a scalable solution to the block storage actually. But the inefficiency with the object storage is you can't really, it is can't easily traceable back. Like you can't really easily understand the same thing. Easily understand, you can't work as easy as block storage, as easy in the object storage as easy as the block storage. Okay. So coming on to the DigitalOcean thing, there are volumes you can see here. Volumes is all about adding the block storage. You just have to use the block storage. You can simply use the DigitalOcean to store any of your files in the block storage format. It is basically maintained by AWS S3 API. You can see the thing, the block storage in it. So, okay. If you add the volume, you are able to create the block storage of your files. But the interesting part I have to tell in this video is having spaces. I'll just show what spaces mean. Spaces mean that you spaces are all about storing your files in object storage. Okay, you can see there it costs very less, relatively cheaper. It's $5 per month. You'll almost get 250 GB of data and 1 TB of data transfer per month. That's what I mean by spaces. Okay, then in this lecture we just go into the overview of how to create a space. Now coming on how to create a space, I'll just show. Okay, how to create a space. You have to choose a data center region. Like based on the region you're living in, you will have the nearby data center regions. You just have to select one of them. And the next thing is content delivery network. Content delivery network is like when if you store your data in Singapore data center, if somebody in the USA wants to access your data, the server takes a long time to traverse from USA to Singapore. But when you enable the CDN, which is content delivery network, the data in Singapore data center is cached into the New York data center, which might save a couple of milliseconds, but it reduces the, it will come faster. It might decrease the it might increase the efficiency actually. So the next part is there are two options for file listing, restrict file listing and enable file listing. I'll show that in demo about this. Don't worry. Okay. So the next part is you have to choose a unique name for your you have to choose a unique name for your s- for the thing you have to storage. Then okay, fine. The space origin URL will be created. In that URL, you can access whatever the data. You can access whatever the data you have uploaded into the DigitalOcean. Then I'm creating the space. Okay, it will take a couple of minutes. Don't worry. Okay, so my space is created actually, and I got the URL actually. If you open that URL, guess what happens? It is not a block storage actually. So I'll just show. If you press the URL, what happens? Okay, so you can see that the XML file will be opened. As you can see, I told right, it uses an API of Amazon AWS S3. So you can see up there my name, but I didn't added any file, so there's nothing. I'll just add a file and I'll show just a second. Okay, I'm uploading a file. Okay, there are two options. Two options mean private and public. Private and public storage things. I'll just show what the public means. I'll just show what private means and how does it work. Okay, then I'm uploading file. Okay, fine. So I just uploaded a picture. Then I got a URL for it. I'll show. Okay, you can go there and you can copy the URL and you can just paste it into the browser. You can actually change the rename. You can actually change the file name in it. Okay, you can see when you open the URL, the file. When you open the URL, new file is when you open the URL, the file image is opening, which I have stored in the file system in DigitalOcean. When you open the root URL, you will have my contents, right? Earlier you don't have any contents. It is just a basic XML file. Now I have contents of the image stored in it. You can see, as I said, Amazon AWS thing. Then in contents, I have my key, my last modified, my e tag, my size, my storage class, and everything of that sort. Okay. Rather than only creating a files, you can actually, as I said, you can actually store GBs of the data, 10 GB, 100 GB. You can store any amount of the data actually. So actually, object storage, you can store 250 GB of the data actually. And again, it is tolerant up to 1 TB of the data transfer. Okay, you can create folders, you can just check it around, you can try it around. It's not an issue. So coming on to the private and public things. What happens when you upload a file in the private manner, or what happens when you upload a file on public manner? When you upload a file in public manner, the URL generated, right? Anyone in the world, like anyone in the world from any corner can just paste the URL and access your files, basically. But that's not efficient, right? You should have some access, you should have some security around it. So that's where private part comes in. When you are uploading a file, you just keep the option private and I'll show the thing in video. Okay, fine. Okay. Restrict file listing. Okay. As I said, there are two options: enable file listing, restrict file listing. When I uploaded the file and went to the root URL, I have the complete content space, right? Like what I have uploaded, at what time, at what e tag, at what's the size of the file. Now, if I press restrict file listing, only the users actually listen. Only the users who connect to this space using the access key can list the contents only. This is where I'll just modify the setting into restrict. Okay, refresh the page. You can see the access generate button. That's fine. Next thing, as I said, right, you can upload files in two different ways: public way and private way. Okay. To change that, just go to the folder, just go to the settings. Okay. Just go to the settings, copy the URL and paste it there. When I in the earlier part of the video, I changed it into private file, right? So if you copy the URL and just paste it into the browser, you won't get the image, right? It's because I changed it into the private file. Now, if you check the browser with the same URL, it will show the access denied thing. Now, how to access it? Like, even if you are not accessing, it won't be any worthy, right? So how you can access your file, I'll show. Okay. You can just go there and you can just press on preview and just keep on opening the image. Then you will have access to the image. What is the issue here? Like, there will be an access key. There will be an access key actually. See, this is the URL. If you open through the preview, the both URLs have something in common. The earlier thing up to .jpg is common in both the URLs. Then after that, there is an XAMG algorithm. Based on that algorithm, you'll produce some private key and the credentials and the sign headers and the signature of me in it. But only if that signature matches, then only you can actually access the files. Okay. And it is a very dynamic algorithm. You can see the expires time, it is 3600 seconds, which essentially mean 1 hour. After 1 hour, if you press the same link, you can't actually access the files. So it is very dynamic and very secure way of storing your files on the cloud. So anyone, even though they have the link, they need your signature, which is dynamically changing after every hour. So it is very secure, right? That's how it works. If you see, as I restricted the file listing, I just change the letter in the URL, and again it shows the signature doesn't match. As I said, the exact every letter have to match, then only you can access the file actually. Okay, that's it for the video, guys. I I discussed about snapshots and spaces in the distillation. Snapshots means taking the image of your current droplet, which is relatively cheaper than backup option. And again, even though if you delete the droplet after creating the snapshot, you can easily create back the droplet from the snapshot in a couple of minutes. It's not even a costly offer. Coming on to the pricing plan, it is just $0.05 per month, which is relatively cheap actually. Then we discussed about spaces, we discussed about block storage and object storage. Then I showed you how to use the storage services on the DigitalOcean. Okay, that's it for now. Thank you guys.